I think if I could go back to 2016, Rachel, I would say detach yourself from the meaning of things that feel bad right now and start to look at what caused it on your end.
You're listening to Business Lunch with Roland Frasier. This is your seat at the table.
Hey everybody, it's Roland Frasier with Business Lunch, and I am very excited to introduce my guest today, which is Rachel Pedersen. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Roland, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. We did this twice because it didn't record the first time, so that's like a total deja vu minute. Would you tell everybody a little bit about kind of who you are and what your company is, where you are right now, before we go into the more deep dive on the entrepreneurial journey?
Absolutely. I am a Minnesota mom of 3. I like sharing that first and foremost because I think there's kind of a belief that it's hard to be a mom and also be a CEO or a business owner. So I'm very proud. I have a 9-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 1-year-old,
Nice.
And we all still live in Minnesota. But I have 2 companies, a digital marketing agency where we work with a combination of businesses that we're growing from the ground up.
Okay.
And established companies where they want to rapidly increase their presence online. And I'm talking very, very quickly.
Okay.
So
Give us an example.
for example, a client comes to me and says, I want to go viral. And so we'll take kind of a coordinated campaign to make them literally go viral. And I mean, truly the definition of viral. 10 million plus organically reached in a week.
Can you give a case study / example?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our clients, I won't say their name just because I don't have that signed off on, but they were a support police officer page where they told a story of how police officers needed more support. And the backstory is that they wanted this to go viral so that they could get some press behind their initiatives to support police officers and their wives. And so what we did is we reached out to a lot of pages that we felt might be sympathetic to their cause. And through very aggressive relationship building over the course of a week, we got so many pages. We got a total of a 31 million person audience to see their content. So it was a success. And then they were able to go on and get the press that they wanted from the local news.
That's great. Now, a lot of people don't really know how to reach out to other pages and folks like that, or they're like, there's an administrator, I guess, but I messaged them and never heard from them because I'm not friends, so I guess I'm in the spam folder. How do you do that?
It's a great question. So one of my skills is getting people's attention. It always has been. I think that attention is so important. Not just getting attention, but learning how to sustain it, monetize it, respect it. And so there's this process I've gone through since I was 19 years old where on social media, any person that I want to connect with, I'll find a way, I'll find a path. So for example, I'll read a book, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss a month ago. And I just wanted to talk to him so badly because this book just deeply impacted me. And so I start this process of multiple touch points. You basically have this concept that you have to hone in on called, I want everyone to see my name on my face. That's literally what I say all the time. I want everyone to see my name on my face. And once they see it several times across several social media platforms, you feel familiar. Then you can start reaching out and building a relationship, and then finally going in for the ask.
Okay, and how do you do that? How do you, let's use Chris as an example. You could have also just asked me because I would have understood. But let's use that as an example. So you wanted to meet him. Did you meet him?
I met him over Zoom.
Okay.
So I was able to interview him for my podcast, and now we talk almost every single week. I think he's amazing.
Yeah, super cool guy.
So talented, so nice, so down to earth. But what I did is first I started tagging things about him in my stories. And I think that's really important. A lot of times people think that to get someone else's attention, you have to brag on yourself. But every person loves hearing their own accomplishments. And his book, it moved me and it changed the way that I negotiate. So I started sharing quotes from it every single time that I was reading a section at the gym. And I started sharing it with my network. And then anytime someone shared that they were reading it, I would take a screenshot and share it with Chris and say, look, my followers are reading now because this book is so great.
Nice.
And I can't stop talking about it. And then the final outreach went on Twitter.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
I love that. And so, so you were kind of across different channels.
I do.
With that, right?
Yes.
Interesting. Is that a strategy in itself, or?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. You never really know which platform is someone's favorite until you start connecting with them a little bit. But most people are on a couple different platforms. Even if they have social media managers, there's at least one platform that they're checking themselves. Most often it's Twitter or LinkedIn. That's what I've found personally. But I like to reach out to people in different ways that are appropriately, I guess, appropriate for each of the platforms. And then once you discover the platform that they're actually on is when you can reach out and say, okay, now I'm ready for the ask.
I love that. I love that as a strategy to start sharing things about them and tagging them and having them go, oh, what, this is happening a lot. I should probably pay attention to this person.
Exactly. And
Cool.
what was interesting is a lot of people might use that for, I guess, evil or whatever, for their own motives. But for me, it's been incredible because I've been able to connect with the people who inspire me. And without even meaning to get something from it, incredible relationships and opportunities have formed.
That's really cool. So now you have an agency, and what was the other business?
We also teach people how to go from 0 to 100,000 pretty quickly in a client relationship, one-on-one client or service provider capacity.
Okay, cool. And how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this full-time for just 3.5 years.
Okay, great. Was it part-time before?
It was. I was, well, full-time and then full-time 9 to 5.
Okay.
Or 8 to 5, I guess.
Okay.
So I was working full-time in an 8 to 5 for 6 months. And it took me 6 months from getting my first client to leaving my 9 to 5. Just a couple months after that, I replaced my husband's job and brought him home, and now we're 50-50 partners.
Nice. And now it's a 24/7 business.
24/7.
Joy of being an entrepreneur.
And I wouldn't have it any other way.
So was that your first entrepreneurial venture to do that?
It was,
Yeah.
although we had this conversation the other day. There was a massive failed attempt at becoming an entrepreneur several years back.
Tell me what you were doing before the attempt, and then
Yes.
what got you to want to do the attempt, and then kind of what happened.
Good question. So I used to be a hairstylist.
Okay, great.
That's why my hair is great, because I know all the secrets.
Fantastic. We were all talking about it earlier.
Oh, well, thank you. So I was a hairstylist, and I didn't have a degree in marketing, didn't really have any marketing experience. And I met this client who wanted me to do their social media for them after several conversations. They were just in over their head.
Were you on social at the time?
I was a little bit, yeah. I did some Instagram posts, a couple tweets here and there, some Facebook, and then I noticed when I put content out there, more people booked with me. But I couldn't directly correlate the two. And this is funny, I've actually been on social since I was 13. I loved MySpace so much. I thought it was amazing. I would create my own coded, profiles. And then at 19 was the first time I discovered that you can get into connection with anybody you want. So I started reaching out to people on Twitter and started connecting with a few reality TV stars.
Yeah.
And then
Who did you connect with?
people from The Colony. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, I watched the space show, the science fiction one, or the other one?
The other one where they
Okay.
had that weird thing where...
I have not seen that one, but I know because somebody told me to watch the science fiction one.
Yes.
When I looked for it on Apple TV, it was like 6 colonies. And
Oh,
so
yeah, it's not that
funny.
one.
Okay.
It's a different one.
All right.
But then I actually got into contact with one of the producers of The Bachelor.
Okay.
Her name's Cassie.
My wife says is the best show on television.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, she does.
I watched it for a lot longer than I care to admit.
Yeah.
But I got into contact with her, and we had this great relationship that we built, and we would just email. And that's when I realized there's a life that's bigger
Right.
than what you've known, and it's accessible. So social media was like a glimmer of hope for me.
Interesting. Kind of a window into the next thing. So you
Yes.
saw that, and now you're talking to your client. How did they say you should run my social media for me?
A good question. Well, first she said, "Can you show me your tweeter?" And I
You're
said,
like, maybe not here.
Yeah, that's a different service. I don't provide that. But then she started to talk a little bit about how her husband was an attorney, and through bankruptcy, they acquired a fried chicken franchise, the corporate franchise.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they were so in over their heads, they didn't know what to do. And I think they were nervous and didn't know who to ask. But I was able to kind of answer a couple questions, and I said, I can come and help you guys set up your Facebook, set up your Twitter. And from there, that was my first client. We started growing from there.
Okay. How did you decide how to charge them?
I waited to see what she said, to be totally honest.
Yeah, no, that's cool, because a lot of people wonder. It's like, how do I set price? You can look at what other people charge, but sometimes something like that's a little harder to figure out what it should be.
And oh my gosh, Roland, so I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs or even really, like, no offense to my family, but even big success.
Yeah, sure.
So I didn't know anything. I didn't know what a proposal was supposed to look like. I didn't understand what a sales call was. So when she offered $15 per hour, I was like, done. Oh my gosh, I can make all this extra cash. This is amazing.
Right.
And at that point in time, that was good money to my husband and I.
Yeah. And so that was the first entrepreneurial thing ever at that point, right?
That was the very first thing.
Okay, so then what happened?
Yeah, a few months later, we kind of got this bug or this idea that we were going to open a franchise under their franchise.
Chicken franchise?
Yeah, a fried chicken franchise.
Right.
So we went down to Memphis, Tennessee. Okay. I was walking into like barber shops, handing out flyers saying like, Mrs. Winter's coming back. Mrs. Winter's Chicken and Biscuits is coming back. And I was so outside of my comfort zone. But the only thing is we didn't have funding. There's no...
Wait, just so I'm clear, you live in Minneapolis.
Yes.
But I think you said Memphis.
Yeah.
So you were going to open a store in Memphis?
We were. Okay. And
because it's close.
It's really...
Starts with the same letter.
It sounds kind of similar.
How did you choose Memphis? I got to know.
Yeah, so we did a lot of research.
They like fried chicken in Memphis, that's
They
for sure.
love it. So we did a lot of research about like the past performing top franchises and what had performed well.
Very smart, yeah.
And then also, because I was doing their social media, I could see where people were asking for locations.
Nice.
And I'd put up a post and say, where do you want to see the next Mrs. Winter's Chicken and Biscuits?
Okay.
And all these comments from Memphis would come in, and I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is our opportunity. We're going to open it, and we're going to be super successful, and my dad can run it. The only problem I ran into is this little problem of not having any capital. And I don't know where I thought it was going to come from, but I thought we'll do a crowdfunding campaign.
I love, though, that you went for it. That's super cool.
We went for it.
That's super cool.
We went hard. And so we were in all of the newspapers and on the news. And then that horrible, wonderful experience of flopping publicly in front of all of Memphis happened when we raised $1,000 for our franchise.
Okay.
That was one of the best experiences of my life.
Now, are you saying that
facetiously?
Yeah, because it might also be one of the best experiences of your life, even though it was a bad one. I find that some of the best experiences of my life, I might not have thought at the time that they were going to be that, but it turned out that they were.
At the time, it didn't feel like it. At the time, I was like sobbing in a hotel room in Memphis, and I felt like I let everyone down.
Was that your first big failure?
First big entrepreneurial failure.
But in life, had you ever had something?
Oh, so many failures.
Okay, so it wasn't, because there are people that have just, they have kind of a trajectory of success in just general life things, and then you get hit with something, and it's like, but you had something that had given you experience. Okay, so what did you do?
So I'll be totally honest. First I cried, and then I ate some chocolate ice cream.
Okay, those are the two steps that I recommend first. So,
yes, first two obvious steps. And then I decided to figure something out. And that was really interesting because it was the first time that I had this realization, there's no golden ticket. There's no lucky moment or a lucky break that suddenly makes everything just happen. And you'd think that you'd only have to learn that once, but every time I look back at our biggest mistakes in our business and the biggest failures, it's been when someone promised me the world, and for some reason I believed it. I wanted to believe that there was like this easy path, or someone was coming to like help me make this all easier. And discovering that it wasn't coming was one of my favorite realizations.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, not at the time, of course, right?
Yeah.
Crying in chocolate ice cream.
Right. And they're pretty good things in their own right.
Yeah.
So now what did you do next? You've had the ice cream, you've had the cry. You probably think maybe should I stay in Memphis? What did you do?
The next thing I did was start to think about what is a good path to getting out of my 9-to-5.
Okay.
And so I just started.
So you knew that you wanted to go down the entrepreneurial path at this point?
Kind of.
Okay.
I think I'd always had a gut feeling that there was something calling to me. For example, back when I worked in restaurants, I created a business plan for a restaurant.
Okay.
And it was going to be a Mediterranean, it was called the Calypso Bay.
Nice.
And it was going to be a Mediterranean fusion restaurant. And I was so excited about that. And I was researching all, how much does a booth cost? Okay, well, what are the different types of booths? And I found that so fascinating. And then when I was a hairstylist, I always had this gut feeling, you're going to have your own salon someday.
Okay.
And I still love hair, by the way.
Yeah.
I think it's so fun.
Yeah.
That's one industry I would love to do more marketing for.
Nice.
Because it's fascinating to me. And then when I started working with this client, I realized I think marketing is like my super talent. I love this.
Okay.
I don't overcomplicate things. I keep it simple, and I'm a normal person, and I'm a mom, and I just find things that work. And that's when I thought, do other people do this? Started searching online. I found a couple different people and thought, if they can do it, I can do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then did you decide just to open a marketing agency?
Ooh, I started to secure clients one at a time. And at first I was charging like 500, 600, or 1,000 a month, depending on the package. So I'm in my 9 to 5. On my lunch breaks, I'm like walking on the treadmill, taking discovery calls, hoping that they don't find out. And I started to secure clients slowly. I think I sent out hundreds of proposals. I didn't know enough about sales yet, but I just kept going until I had enough clients to replace my 9 to 5's income. And so it slowly happened, or at least it felt slow to me, 6 months, and then it was finally time to start leaving.
Nice. Now, do you have, I'd like to know this too. When, did you have in mind, when I hit this, I'm going to leave the 9 to 5?
I had no clue, Roland, no idea.
So just when it felt right?
Yes.
Okay.
It was really scary to me. So a little backstory, my husband and I met we just had our 6th anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. We met 6 years ago, and when I met him, I was a single mom who had just gotten off of welfare. I was a hairstylist. I was in a really broken phase of my life. I was an alcoholic, and just everything had fallen apart in my life. And so when I met him, I looked at him and I just felt safe instantly. And so thankfully he felt the same way, because otherwise it would have been kind of creepy. So a week later he said that he loved me, and 13 days after we met, we got married.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It really was.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, and if my daughters ever said that, I would probably freak out, you know?
Well, you have good advice to give them now.
Yes.
Love it at first sight as possible.
But it really worked for us, and so my husband gave me safe space to bloom and grow. He's kind of like the string to the balloon, or the rock to the house, the solid foundation.
That's better than being an anchor. I like that.
Yeah.
I like those analogies better.
So true. He doesn't bring me down.
Right.
He gives me a stable place to start.
Right.
And so what was so crazy is I didn't know when the point to leave was going to be. But when I hit the amount to replace my 9 to 5 income, he said, I think it's time for you to start considering doing this.
Great.
And I was so scared. I was like, what if I let us down? What if we fail? What if we end up back on welfare? And he was like, babe, that's not going to happen. Just try it.
That's
Just
awesome.
see what happens.
That's really great. Now, do you have people that work with you now, that work as partners or employees?
Good question. We have both. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. We do more of strategic alliances. I've had really good success with strategic alliances. I'm less likely to jump into a partnership because I've already been married in 13 days once. And I think partners are a lot like marriage. So I take it really seriously.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of team members that are amazing here and in other countries, both 1099ers and full-time employees.
Okay. And did I meet a business partner of yours earlier?
Yes,
Okay.
strategic alliance technically.
Okay.
But
Tell
yes.
us what the difference in your opinion is.
Ooh,
of
good
those.
question. This might just be a technicality, but strategic alliances in my mind are how can we co-create and collaborate in a way that benefits each of our businesses together, almost kind of like dating or serious dating before you get married or engaged.
Okay.
When you get married, it's like what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. So assets, bank accounts, everything is kind of split in a way.
Sure.
And I'll be honest, that does make me really nervous. And so I'm not fast to move into partnership, but that's kind of the difference I see. One is we can do this together, but we make sure it's clear.
It's a good distinction.
Yeah.
So now tell us, in growing your business, how are you using strategic partners, and how do you find them and work with them?
Good question. So the very first thing that I do is I look for someone who is strong where I'm weak. I'm good in a few areas, but I have a lot of weaknesses that I don't really need to work on. And I'm sure you've experienced that too. Everyone's experienced that,
I
right?
mean, I have no weaknesses, but yes, of course.
I'm so jealous.
Yes, yeah, of course.
So I
like Sarah Blakely's thing. She says, hire your weaknesses.
Yes.
Which I think is really smart.
And I like to do strategic alliances in the areas of my weaknesses.
Okay.
So for example, in our agency, I love looking at a client and coming up with a strategy and then saying, this is the strategy, here are all the steps. I can literally see the entire recipe to something being a massive success. But then when it's time to follow through and be a project manager, I can't do any of it. So I like to find people who have teams that are built out that they trust.
Okay.
So we have less of our digital marketing agency team in-house than we did in the past, because I oftentimes find that they follow the leader that they like, so we create the strategic alliance, so I can keep my inner circle really small.
So you align with another agency to basically create the plan, the strategy, and then have them do the implementation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. And then how do you go about figuring out how to divide the revenue from something like that?
Good question. So I always come into everything asking people what they expect. What do you expect? What does this look like to you? And once they present what they believe is fair, or although as we learn there is no such thing as fair, whatever takes care of their needs and makes sure that they're profitable, how I handle it on the back end is totally up to me. So if I want to charge a small fee on top of it for bringing everything together, coordinating the strategy, that's fine. If I want to charge a large fee so that we can make sure that there's a great customer experience, that's up to me as well.
Okay.
So.
And did you say you started this 3 years ago? Okay. So if 2019 was going to have a conversation with 2016 Rachel, what would you do different knowing what you know now?
Ooh. It's so crazy because 2019, the first half of 2019 was the hardest year of business I've ever had. Totally candid.
Yeah.
So this was the year that I had to go deep. And have you ever had like scars emotionally from life?
So many.
Where they didn't heal right? This was the year we actually had a business partner that left us, and it shocked us. It was like
So a business partner, somebody
business
that owned part
partner.
of the business. Okay.
Yes, and he left suddenly.
Yeah.
It was like we got a text message, and then
out.
all of a sudden he was gone, and we were in Jamaica. So
It's always nice when they do that.
I really appreciate that.
Really? Great. Let me have some fun in Jamaica.
And that business partner had always said, like, we're family, you know, and we spent all this time together. We were raising our kids together. So when that happened, I had to make a choice because I was pretty raw emotionally. And I realized it wasn't because of this. It was because it was a compilation of like traumatic events from my upbringing.
Sure.
And so this was the year I decided I'm not going to sit back and sit here with like debris in my wound anymore. It's time to cut it out and let's let this heal properly.
Yeah.
So I took a few months, didn't step away from the business, but slowed down a little and went through intense healing, through therapy, through lots of work, through reading, journaling,
Nice.
self-care.
That's great.
Yes, but you know how it can be really painful. Yeah. You can say it so like easily now, but you know, that was one of my favorite lessons. So if I could go
It's like
back.
when your franchise fails and you're
Yeah.
now saying, ah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think if I could go back to 2016, Rachel, I would say, detach yourself from the meaning of things that feel bad right now and start to look at what caused it on your end. Also, is there another meaning to this? Am I attaching the right meaning to this? And what lesson is trying to be taught to me through this?
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
That's very deep advice as opposed to what a lot of people would say. You know, use Twitter more. But that's great. That's really cool. It's because that's the advice that actually makes a difference. That's really, really cool. And so the partnership didn't work out. So you went through kind of a partnership divorce / breakup. Any takeaways from that?
That was where I kind of realized that I wanted to go very carefully into partnership. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it again, but I just would love to focus on strategic alliances for a while.
Sure.
And to be really careful to make sure that I see the red flags and the things that are coming, like the little things. I truly believe that before something screams, it whispers, and you can kind of hear it if you're really attuned to it.
Were there whispers that you, looking back,
Oh yeah,
recognize?
absolutely. There were
Anything
little
that you think
whispers.
would be helpful for people to know not like a specific thing about the person, but just like, I saw this and I didn't really pay any attention to it.
There was one major thing, and that was that, without getting too personal, I noticed that there were some personal relationships in that person's life that seemed to be constantly deteriorating, and then that person would rush into helper mode. But not helper. At first I thought, oh, that's so great, like that's awesome. But then I realized it was a continual, almost like dependency.
Got it.
And I saw that and I was like, okay, that is an indication that someone allows traumatic experiences around them to sweep them up. But then the other thing too is that there were little whispers, and this is like really personal, but there were little whispers of, is this always going to be the Rachel show? And when I heard that, it hit me really hard, because that was the final reason for, well, at least that's what we heard, for him leaving.
Now, was that in terms of making decisions?
No, not as much, because I don't...
Notoriety,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a business partner before who I met. Tony Robbins became a client of our law firm because my old business partner represented Tony at the time. And so I inherited Tony as a client on the stuff that I was doing. And when we were talking about going into partnership, he said, now listen, you won't be able to like go fly airplanes with Tony every time and do this and do this. And I was like, I don't care. And he's like, okay, well, my partners before, because he had a failed partnership, so my partners before were like mad that they didn't get to go do all these things.
Yep.
So it's like, that's your relationship. If he wants you to do stuff, cool. It's like, so you have to find somebody that is comfortable enough with themselves that they don't need that recognition. And if you get somebody that's chasing fame as opposed to fortune, that's a pretty good one. That's a really good one for people to to take away.
And one thing that was really interesting is that people don't realize how much pressure there is when you build a personal brand. Like, everything that you do gets critiqued online, and not everyone's made to withstand that pressure.
How do you do it?
It's a good question. My dad was a pastor growing up.
Okay. My grandfather was a minister.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, what denomination?
Baptist.
Okay, we were Lutheran.
Nice.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So we were kind of raised on stages. My mom was also the music minister.
Okay, great.
And so I kind of always knew what it was like to have people with opinions about you. But the other thing that's really interesting is that I've managed so many clients' social media where I've seen every single thing you do, you can't win. And once you see enough of it, you realize, oh, this is just the nature of keyboard warriors. This is just the nature of people, especially after wine o'clock. They get so angry, like they're sitting there. You can always tell, like right when it hits.
How can you get angry with wine? It's just so nice.
Yeah, seriously. But that was kind of a realization for me. If you want to rise to big things, you have to be comfortable with the other side of it, the shadow of it.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. I think I just emotionally detached myself, because people criticize everything from how big my forehead is to, oh my gosh, Rachel gained 10 pounds. She must be a terrible mother. She's always traveling. Like, there's so much,
really
and
funny.
it doesn't matter.
I like the Britney Spears "Piece of Me" song because it has lines in it like that. It's like, I'm just trying to be a mom.
I love that song.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
So I've seen a lot of it, and it just, I was made to withstand it because it doesn't affect me.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, but really, it's just kind of brush it off.
Yeah,
right? Shake it
exactly.
off. And the best advice that Taylor Swift can give. So, what are you? Well, I have to ask one thing. Since your mom was the music minister, do you play an instrument?
I do.
Yeah, what do you play?
Kellyanne actually just learned that this week.
Yeah?
I play several instruments. I play the piano and I play the saxophone.
Nice.
But mostly I sing, but I'm very private about it now. That is one thing I can't do in front of people, which is really interesting.
Yeah?
That's
So
like,
no TikTok songs for you?
I did one.
Yeah?
Just once.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Okay.
I don't sing in front of people very often.
Yeah.
But singing is something I love. My sisters and I have two sisters. My sisters, my mom, and I can jump into 4-part harmony on any song
Oh, that's
at the
fun.
drop of a hat.
Nice. What are you most excited about right now in the wide world of all the things you're doing?
Good question. What I'm most excited about is right now, I'm loving what we do. And that took a while to get to. And so every day I wake up and I'm like, let's have some fun. With TikTok, it started as a creative outlet, and I would tell my team that. I don't know what this is going to turn into, but I'm having fun. And
It's the best way to explore anything. I
oh
think.
my gosh, I was having so much fun, and the fun is only amplified. So we're having a lot of fun. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I don't want to say that I found balance, because I think the second I say that, something's going to say, I don't think so.
Yeah, life is like that.
Yeah, but I feel like we found a really good stride with our, at least at this point in time, with our marriage, balancing having 3 kids. The 2 businesses are going well. I'm most excited, though, about just waking up and honestly chasing our bliss, to quote Joseph Campbell.
Nice.
We're following
Great.
our bliss, and it's been really cool.
That's a good person to quote if you're quoting.
Yeah.
And so how about in terms of what you see as the biggest opportunities, since we're recording this close to the end of the year, going forward right now?
Really good question. So many people are talking with a one-way radio. Like they're broadcasting,
Yeah.
which is good and it's helpful.
They're not conversing.
Exactly. There's something so powerful about replying to a comment. And it's become more challenging the bigger we've gotten, but at the same time, it's something I've really said, to the best of our ability, let's always have that in mind. If we see a deep comment or something where someone put their heart into it, let's really try to take a moment and just engage with them or acknowledge them, say thank you so much, even if it's short. Broadcasting's great, but there's something so powerful about conversation.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really enjoys being talked at.
Yep.
They like being talked with.
Yep.
And that's a big important distinction, particularly because they call it social media.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, not broadcast media.
Yeah. That's why I like to ask questions on social media a lot. I like asking questions about things that I don't know the answers to. Even if it's as silly as like, how do you solve a dog with ear infections? Like how do you fix that? How do you cure it? Because you just learn so much about different people. And then if you take a moment and just say thank you, they feel connected with. There's one other thing I've done personally that I've really liked. And it's every day when I wake up, I look at whose birthdays it is. And I literally take 5 minutes and just say happy birthday to each person. I think that can be really powerful.
I don't do that as often as I would like to, but I will, like, when the thing comes up and says it's so-and-so's birthday, I'm okay, and then you do that. It does. It's been, people are like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah,
right?
You get like 80% comment response, and you're like, oh, that meant something to them that day,
does.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. So you were here talking with our audience about TikTok at the Mastermind, and that seems like it's a pretty big opportunity. Is TikTok a focus for you, or Facebook, or Insta, or where are you putting your efforts the most?
Yeah, in the past, I've put most of my efforts into LinkedIn and Facebook.
Okay.
And this up and coming year, we're really doubling down on TikTok and YouTube.
Okay.
Those are our 2 big ones. I still think LinkedIn has quite a bit of potential. Facebook seems to be doing kind of like a free hanging fall. I don't know what's happening there, but Instagram is one I've never loved, and I'm just being totally honest.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't really play the cool kids game very well, and I don't put pictures of my butt on social media, so like my Instagram doesn't grow very well.
Right.
Because my mom asked me not to, and I think that's really smart.
She's very prudish of her.
Yes. So, but the Instagram game just isn't my favorite, and I have a feeling that with the diminished reach, even more so over the last few weeks, it's not going to have a pretty future. So TikTok and YouTube are my 2 go-tos. It's video.
What specifically are you doing to expand those spheres of influence for yourself?
Great question. On YouTube, we go really heavy into how-to videos, and that's what we're planning out for 2020.
Is that long format, like 8 to 10 minute kind of things?
Yep, exactly. 8 to 10 minutes of how-tos, and I'm talking like in the trenches how-tos, not how to balance everything in life.
Yeah, most of the articles that I see in business magazines are like 6 ways to blah, 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 and they're so surface.
Yes.
And so not really helpful at all.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's great.
I love to get into the trenches, and that's like, because I love social media, so anytime I can share something that's a tactical how-to, I really enjoy that. And so we're going to go there. But there's always that temptation, like, shouldn't I be more prolific? But that's okay.
How prolific are you?
I don't know. Maybe the listeners can tell us
Well, I
based
mean,
on this interview.
in terms of production, like how often are you producing?
Oh, no, hardly at all.
Okay.
I only do that in my highest level of like masterminds. And every morning I go in with something that is, I guess, depending on how you rate it, moderately prolific. But I don't like to focus on that. I find too often that people have a very, I don't know, a heavy woo or prolific set of content, and there's no vehicle for how they actually create change.
Right.
If you can identify the vehicle for change, then I think it's really powerful.
Yeah. And how about TikTok?
So on TikTok, we are going consistent. That's one of my biggest challenges with TikTok. Obviously, when you have like kids, it can get kind of crazy some days. But when I consistently create 1 to 5 videos per day, oh my gosh, the growth explosion is crazy.
Is there a magical happy number between 1 and 5?
No, I like to put out more. It just totally depends on the day and if I'm able to create content.
And are
Usually,
they 15 seconds or?
they are 15 seconds.
Okay.
I don't usually go into 60 seconds.
Yeah.
I like the 15
Okay.
and try to hit it really hard and then be done.
Okay.
But yeah, usually I do 3-ish videos per day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. If folks would like to get a hold of you to be able to find out more about you and what you do and all that, what are the best ways for them to do that?
Great question. So I'm on all social media platforms as the Mrs. Pedersen, all E's and a D in my last name.
Okay.
And then rachelpedersen.com, and I have everything from how-to videos to some blog posts and some great free resources. rachelpedersen.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Roland.